Hello, everyone. It's the Movie Night Society. Uh, just us two again. Dustin had a pretty legitimate excuse this time.
We'll come some slack just this once.
Yeah, just this once. Next time
Just this
he's
once.
well, we're killing him live
Yeah,
on
even if it's the
the
same
movie night.
excuse, it'll be like unexcusable. You're out.
He cannot break the rules of the Movie Night
That's
Society.
the
God
way.
damn it! All right. Well, we're talking about Hell House LLC. We're continuing our streak of found footage horror films. So, uh, yeah, I picked this one because we've both seen this movie. I think did we watch it together the first time?
I'm pretty sure we did.
Uh, oh boy. Well, Dustin's sending us stuff. We'll look at it later. Um, yeah, I think we watched this together the first time. I don't remember when. It must have been like quite a few years ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago.
I think this movie came out in like 2015. So we probably saw it like 2016, 17, maybe 2015. I'm not sure. But
Doesn't
around
feel
that.
like doesn't feel like it's been that long. Really? Wow.
I don't know.
I don't remember what year we saw it. I thought it
The
was like a couple of
sequel,
years later.
I think the sequel came out in 2018. So I don't think there was a sequel at that point. So it must have been at like probably 2017. So like,
Wow. Yeah, 2017. I guess.
yeah,
Doesn't feel that long ago, but that's already
it
5
doesn't.
years.
And yeah, there's actually two sequels to this movie, which I actually forgot about. uh, and I have not seen the third one. Kind of, I want to say I like passively watched the sequel because I didn't find it as good as this one. Um, but yeah, uh, Dustin's still messaging us. Uh, well, I don't know. I've seen this movie a few times now because I watch it every like other Halloween or so, and I remember really liking it the first time. I remember like both of us were pretty like surprised by it. I don't know what our expectations were for it or anything because sometimes you and I would just like
Oh, this looks
hop
interesting.
on,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
just
maybe
like
we
go
were
on
trying to
Amazon
find.
Prime.
Yeah, maybe we'd be trying to find a found footage film and be like, "This sounds interesting," and then we would just sometimes watch it. And
Yeah.
I don't remember if this was one of those movies though, where you had seen it and then recommended to watch it.
No,
I think
I had not seen this
it's been
before I saw it with you. I'm pretty sure
okay.
we
It's
saw it
been
together.
it's been too long, so I don't remember the
Yeah.
details. I just know I think this is only my second time seeing this movie, but I remembered a lot of it because I enjoyed it the first time when we watched it together.
Yeah,
So I remembered a lot
it's
of it.
it's weird. I watched it a couple Halloweens ago or Octobers or whatever. And I was sort of like disappointed by it the second time I saw it. I was kind of like it was a lot better in my mind, I guess. And then over the past couple years, I was like, maybe, it doesn't need to be like super innovative or like exceptional to be like a good movie.
Yeah,
And
because this really isn't. It doesn't really do anything new. It doesn't do anything to innovate the genre. I think what it does pretty well.
I think so too. But I did still watching it again, I was still kind of like, it's not like quite there for me in terms of like a really, really solid found footage movie, but I did enjoy it, and I probably will pop it on in like a couple years and like watch it again around October. Uh, just because it's got like a lot of things I like in Halloween or like October movie. I mean, one, I really like found footage for October. I don't know why, but something about it is really fun to watch around the season. And then, of course, like it's all about them creating or prepping a haunted house like attraction.
Yeah, I
And
really like that premise. I think that definitely. I think maybe You didn't tell me about it because you didn't see it, but we must have. Did we read like the description for the movie and then like, oh, this sounds kind of neat. Like we liked the
Yeah, I
idea, so we
don't
checked it out. See, I don't remember. I just know that like
I don't remember either.
the premise is really cool. Like, oh, it's this abandoned place, and we're gonna have it open for like this Halloween attraction, and have like a whole bunch of people there, and we kind of get the perspective of the people who are waiting to go in the house, like when the film opens, and
Yeah.
you get. I mean, that's like talking about the plot of the movie, but if you want to wait to do that,
No, no,
um,
we can jump in. This one does have. I feel like a lot of found footage movies have sort of a like a problem when you have to like break down the plot, where it's like, excuse me, kind of with like Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, it's like a lot of setup, but the setup isn't like the most interesting part. I think the setup here is pretty good.
yeah, I think the
Um,
setup like sets up a good kind of mystery about the movie, like the opening parts of it. Um,
yeah,
I like that we see from the perspective like you're going through the house first, and some things aren't quite right. There's people kind of running out that apparently are working on like behind the scenes stuff, and you have like the first person that runs out is this clown guy from the basement, and then someone runs up the stairs, and people are kind of commenting like, I don't think that's supposed to happen, and then you get to the basement, and just everybody is panicking and running out, and like the whole film kind of builds up to that reveal of like what happened in that basement that caused that pure chaos to happen.
yeah. I
It's a good
really
hook.
like that.
I'd say it's a good
Yeah,
hook.
I really liked that structure and that kind of like, yeah, sort of, yeah, that hook of like leaving you with this like, oh, what happened, and then slowly kind of like, getting there was really fun. Um, I'm not sure how I feel about the documentary structure of the movie though, because it's not like a typical found footage where it just kind of goes like, here is the footage and that's it. It's like intercut with like interviews of people who like investigated the whole event, and one of the people who was like was like Sarah. She's like one of the people who helped set up that Hell House, and she's being interviewed as like the only survivor of the company that put together this haunted house. Uh, I like a lot of aspects of the documentary thing, but then there are certain things that are kind of, I don't know, that I have mixed feelings on. I think there's there's parts of the movie where they something will happen that is a little bit more subtle, but not like terribly subtle, where they basically like replay the footage and then kind of like do a, oh, did you see that? Like, did you see what happened there? And those parts I feel kind of work against what I personally really like about found footage, which is like just seeing that stuff for myself and like, you know, discovering that, uh, like intently watching and seeing that, not like, oh, did you see it? Did you like catch that thing? I don't know. It's something
Yeah.
about it
They
kind
didn't do
of.
it too much in this, at least. I can only think
No,
of like
which is
two
good.
instances, at least. Like that's at least I think it's saving grace. It doesn't do it too often, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, but okay. I did watch the director's cut. I got the DVD because
I
I
heard
like
that
the movie
version's
enough.
better.
It's better in some ways. There's like a couple more scares or like creepy moments, but I think I need to watch the director's cut again because it was kind of like, I don't know. Whenever you watch like a different version of a film you've already seen, the like scenes that you didn't, that weren't in it before, like stand out, and you go like, oh wait, okay, like is this a scene that I already saw? Or and like it kind of made me focus on that a bit too much, because I just kept wondering like, did I see this scene before or what?
Mm.
Or and it kind of feels like it breaks up the pacing a little bit, but that could just be because you know I know the how the film is already. so it's like kind of drawing like, oh yeah, this is a new scene. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I get you.
Um,
I just watched the
there's
version that was on Shutter, so I take it that's not the director's cut.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I don't remember seeing any like I don't remember this scene from the movie because I pretty much remembered all like the scares and the setups, and I remembered most of this movie. So
Yeah,
there weren't any
there's not
scenes that surprised me. Like, oh, I don't remember that. So I must not have watched the director's cut because
it's not
they don't
like
have that on Shutter.
it's not like a ton of new scenes, but there are some things that were pretty like okay, that was noticeable. Okay, one thing we're getting into the plot of this movie and we're spoiling things. So if you don't want us to spoil the movie, go see it. I still recommend it, even though I'm going to talk about some of the problems I have with it. But okay, I think I think this is a me problem, but the first couple times I watched this movie, I did not feel that Alex, the character who is like the owner of Hell House, he's like the one character who's kind of like driving everyone to keep going with this. I never got the feeling the other times I've watched it that he was like in some kind of pact with like a demon or something and was like purposefully uh like he kind of knows what's going on. Did you get that?
Uh, not
Because I
really.
I feel like the director's cut added a couple more scenes where the characters talk about like they more strongly imply that Alex like has made some kind of uh deal or just knows more about this house than he lets on, uh and is kind of essentially kind of aware that he's putting them in danger.
I think there was a scene in the movie where I guess he knew a little bit more of the backstory of the house that he
Yeah.
kept from people, but that was at that one scene.
Yeah,
That's kind
that
of
was
it.
kind of like all I felt. This the director's cut, there's a scene where I think it's Paul, it might have been one of the other two guys. Um they go into Alex's room and they find his like his little book that he like keeps of like plans and stuff. And it's just like filled with all this like satanic, you know, drawings and like writing and everything. And I did honestly kind of feel like that scene made it too obvious. I actually kind of like, in hindsight, like the subtlety that, like, oh, Alex could maybe be aware of what's going on, but maybe he's not. But maybe it was too subtle in the original cut because, like, I didn't even think about it. There's a scene later on. I know we're kind of jumping all over the place, but I guess I just want to talk about this part. But there's a scene later on where I'm trying to think of the characters' names. Just
Tony
the
was one of
Tony,
them, and
yeah. Uh,
Mac.
is it Mac?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I know that
It's
Tony. Tony's one of
it.
them.
Well, okay. There's Alex, who's like the leader of the whole thing, and then there's Paul, who's like the more kind of like obnoxious comedic relief, I guess.
He's the Dustin of this movie.
Yeah, here when you said that, you like texted that to us. I was like, oh my god, you're right.
I knew it.
And then there's Sarah, who is Alex's girlfriend and is like the only survivor. And then there's like the two other guys. I think one of them is Tony.
Tony's one of them for sure.
Yeah, and then the other guy, I'm gonna look up his name real quick, but
I think
it's
it's Mac.
basically those five characters, and it's there's a part where Tony and yeah, the other guy who's Google is not loading for me. Hopefully my internet isn't gonna cut out in a second. But
Hopefully not.
he
I can look it up.
yeah, so Tony and the other guy like
See,
are talking.
see, Tony, Alex, Mac, and well, his name's Andrew, but he goes by Mac. I knew it.
Okay. I don't remember them calling him Mac though. I don't know why.
Well, I apparently did because that's the name that came to mind. So in your face.
Okay. So him and Tony are talking, and there's like they're basically like one of them is like explaining to them like, oh, like
Yeah,
why they have to stay, and
because
then it
Tony
like
wanted to
kind of
leave. Like after like all
yeah
this scary stuff happens, where it's like, yeah, no duh, he wants to leave. Everybody should want to leave with the stuff they've been seeing. And you're talking about the scene where like they're in the field, it like kind of cuts off their
yes
conversations, and he kind of is like, well, I guess we can't leave. Alex, screwed us over. But yeah, we don't get to hear what, like any like real context behind it, like what it is. I heard it's told in the
yeah
second one.
yeah, I've heard that too. I don't remember that at all. I don't know. I feel like I remember the second one feeling weirdly less produced than the first one.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to the point in the second one where it's revealed what was said then.
Okay. But yeah, it was like essentially like now that I kind of like understand that the whole idea is that Alex is the one who is sort of, I don't want to say masterminding everything, but he knows more than,
He's
you know,
laying on. Yeah.
yeah, that like, oh, they're talking about Alex, and like that Tony might know something about Alex as well, and then but the camera like cuts it out and everything. So I actually felt like it was an interesting addition to the movie, but yeah, I think there was a better in between of like, you know, more flat out explaining it with the scene with the book and showing all the like satanic drawings and stuff. And uh I'm not like crazy, right? That wasn't in the regular version, right? You don't remember a scene like that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. But yeah, I think there's like an in between of like that kind of like, okay, too obvious versus like I didn't even think about it. So that's something that I think there's got to be some middle ground there that's a little more subtle, but gets the audience to like think about that kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like I didn't. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention enough. I don't know. Maybe some people got it. Um, I'm trying to think of. Well, let's. I guess we'll keep going with the plot um, before we talk about more of the differences and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so basically, the five of them kind of like are part of Hell House LLC. Uh, and I did actually listen to about, I don't know, like an hour's worth of the director's commentary uh, on the movie, and there was a interesting part because they're playing some game in the car where they have to like guess a person, I think, and I think they say like Richard Matheson or something, or like they want they want a person to guess the book I Am Legend or something, and I think the nod was to Richard Matheson, who wrote a book called Hell House. So I think that it's like supposed to imply that Alex got the name from that book. Just a cute little bit of trivia, not super important or anything.
I
But
didn't even remember that. I just watched this movie today and didn't remember that.
I didn't either. I think I didn't know what they were trying to guess. So yeah, they I guess like they were in New York and decided to move their location for this haunted house attraction out into I don't know. They say it's about like 40 minutes away from the city. So like upstate New York, I guess, right? Um,
Yeah, something like that.
I assume. Uh, and they kind of rent out this place called the Abaddon Hotel. And throughout the course of the movie, we kind of learn that there's like a lot of like bad history there. People died. Someone like killed their family and then like killed himself, right? They like hung themselves or something. Uh, I forgot what the character's name was. I'm sure that's something they probably explore more in the sequels as well. And I was talking about this with you. They apparently announced there is going to be a prequel to the whole series soon, which could be interesting. So I guess I gotta get to watching those. But so Yeah, they go to this house. They decide to stay at the hotel as they're like prepping it and everything. Like they decide to
Yeah,
sleep
so
there.
they stay there for, isn't it a couple weeks to
I
prepare?
I think they start in like August, or I don't know. I thought it was like a couple months, but I could be wrong.
I remember being at least a couple weeks, maybe a month.
I'll look it up.
Well, they don't just stay there like 2 or 3 nights. Like usually, seems like in most horror stuff, they're there for maybe like a couple nights or something, and then everything goes down.
Yeah.
It's like the closer they
Um,
get to the opening night, things continually get worse.
yeah, which is like very good what do you want to say, like ticking clock element. Like we know, the audience knows that like something went down on their opening night, because that's at the very beginning of the movie. And then yeah, this is kind of more about like showing how it got there and the progression of everything. Um, and I don't know. It's always like, oh, how do we talk about the plot? Because essentially, like for a good majority of found footage movies, it's like explaining scares and like how things kind of gradually build up.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
guess like one thing I'd like to talk about is I like a lot of the like the tension that's built up in a lot of the scenes where it's not really like necessarily jump scares that they do, but let's just
yeah,
take what's behind you on your background, for example, this
yeah,
clown
the clown, this creepy
mannequin.
ass clown.
I like that they use like these clown props that they have in the basement, and they're very like explicit that you can't turn its neck because they kind of wanted to have their necks turned or heads turned in a certain
Yeah,
way, but because like they're just the mannequins, they won't, they have to like turn the body. You can't turn the head, and they explicitly say that for payoff later because one of like the biggest kind of, I'd say like first like real scares in the movie, or maybe it's not like scare, but it's really creepy. Is I think Paul is filming, and he's just kind of like talking with I think Alex or Tony or something, and he's kind of just looking around the house, and he sees the mannequin just kind of standing there looking down towards the basement, and he's like, oh, he thinks he's being pranked by I think Tony or one of the other guys is in there. It's like, haha, you got me. And then he goes in the other room, and it's like the guy he thought was pranking him in there. Well, he's out here now. It's like, well, wait a minute, you can't be here. You were just right there. And Paul, he freaks out, so he runs back to where the mannequin was, and it's just gone. He goes down in the basement, and it's just sitting in the position that they left it in. I think
yeah,
before that too, like he looks down at the basement, and then like when he turns back to the mannequin clown, its head's turned,
yeah. It's
which
like
they
like
said it
turned
couldn't do
right at him.
unless maybe like there's a person in there, but it's also like
Well, it's
supposed
a
to be like
mannequin,
it's
so
a
that
man.
there can't be a person
They
in it.
call it a mannequin, but like yeah, that's what was always weird to me is they call it a mannequin and like the head's solid and everything, but like they expect like people to be in it too because Paul thought one of his friends was in it. So I was like, well, is it a mannequin or is it like a suit? Like, can you get in it? It's kind of weird.
Maybe he
Um,
didn't know enough about
yeah, I
how
mean,
the
it's
props worked or something.
yeah, you just kind of like have to assume that. But
Yeah,
I thought that was a really unsettling, like, good, creepy scene, especially because that
yeah,
thing is like, it's just pale. You got the blood. It's kind of
yeah,
tall and big, and it's just
yeah. It's
it's
like
creepy looking. And
when I think when Paul is filming it, it's like clearly like taller than him.
yeah,
Uh,
so this thing's creepy. Like
yeah,
there's a reason like it gets used.
yeah.
Um, because I think about like
It gets used like at least 3 times, I'd say.
yeah, it's used in the
Yeah.
sequel too. Spoiler.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. I think I was looking up like stills to for the background, and I think I saw that like it's in
yeah,
3 as well.
yeah. I'm not surprised because it's creepy. So like I'm not surprised that they used it for all of them. But I really liked that scene. It's especially when we first saw it. I was really unsettled watching that. I'm not afraid of clowns or anything, but I just like the way they did that. I thought was really creepy, really cool, and like because like I said, that there's not really like a whole lot that happens up to that point, like in terms of scares. So I think that's a really good way to, I think, kind of get you invested in like what other things could happen because like, oh, that was a really kind of creepy thing. Like, what other creepy things are going to happen now?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just
Yeah,
wanted to talk about that because I like that scene a lot.
yeah, a lot of the scares are really good in this, but well, listening to the commentary, the director, Stephen Cognetti, he basically said that like he doesn't like the found footage kind of, boo jump scares,
Yeah, which
or something.
they don't really do too much of that.
Yeah, really not until the end. I feel like they really savor it, which
Yeah,
I think is good. Um, but that's like, I think one thing that makes the scares in this fairly effective is they're not terribly like, you know, loud thing happens, or, you know, thing goes at you and goes
really.
boo.
Yeah,
There's a really, I think the creepiest moment in the whole movie is basically when Paul gets
the strobe
uh
light.
no, the when Paul is in his bed and he like wakes
Oh
up.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he basically, he's like kind of has the camera at an angle because he's like kind of like vlog, or not vlogging, but like kind of like using it as a video diary.
I like that they kind of set this up too, like beforehand, because I know what scene you're going to talk about. And
Yeah,
like earlier, they have him like he's on his bed, kind of vlogging, and they, of course, purposely like kind of leave this much room in the camera to so
yeah,
you
like
can
they
see the
show
door.
like the open door
So like,
to his room.
yeah, this did this happen before the clown or after?
uh
I think it happened after.
I think it happens after, because this is basically where Paul gets
Yeah,
possessed, or essentially
but
he's
yeah,
like essentially
he's
gone after that.
yeah, he's because he's talking, to the camera, saying stuff, and then we just see this kind of shadowy figure come in the room, and it's got long hair, so it looks like a woman, and he's just like, "Oh, hey, Sarah, like, what's up?" He thinks it's Sarah, and she just kind of leaves without saying anything, and he just, okay, that was weird,
Yeah,
doesn't think anything of it, and we assume like the next time it shows him in his bed vlogging, and he says something, and then he turns off the lights, goes to bed, and I guess he wakes up in the middle of the night or something, and then
yeah,
like the lady's just sitting there,
yeah,
like,
I love it.
ooh,
Not like jump
yeah,
at the camera or
no, she's
anything.
just there, just sitting,
Yeah, and
really
then
unsettling.
the creepiest little part in it is that he basically like hides under the covers because he's so scared,
Yeah,
and then
peeks
he's
out.
like using the camera to like kind of peek under the covers to like see her, and there's just like a part where he lifts it up and she just gets up.
Yeah,
She doesn't
and
do
eyes
anything.
wide open,
Yeah,
like
she
those
doesn't
wide,
blink, but
creepy eyes. No, she just like
she just
slowly
starts
gets
to
up.
get up, and it's like, it's so much creepier than if she, yeah, like went like
Just like,
boom
ah!
at the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah. The fact that
um
she's not doing much.
yeah, is like really unsettling. I liked that part too where he thinks like Sarah walks by the door. Um, I like that part too because it's like established that Sarah like sleepwalks. So it's like, okay, it is plausible that it could be Sarah.
Yeah, we never
Um,
see who it is,
yeah,
so it could have been her sleepwalking,
yeah, that was
or it could
nice.
have been this girl. You don't really know.
Yeah, I will say before any of these scares, I don't know how I felt about this scare. It's essentially only in the director's cut, from
Oh,
because I didn't remember it. I assume it's only in the director's cut. And I guess the reason why there is a director's cut, he kind of explained in the director's commentary, was that he didn't have like enough time before the film was supposed to be finished to finish some of the scares and stuff. Uh, so he added those in later, uh, when they had another chance to like edit. So kind of kind of weird that he, I don't know what the circumstance would be that he had to finish the movie, but I don't know. Maybe for film festivals or something. Who knows? Um, I don't know if I can't remember if he specified or anything, but there is one scene that's added in earlier on where I think it's Tony and Mac again are putting up a prop, um, like mannequin that is like hanging by a noose from the ceiling, and I think in the background there's like a door that's open, or uh, it's like, oh no, I think the door opens while they're doing it, and then something like, I think one of them, like they walk away. Uh, I think they both walk away, and like you just see these like yellow lights, like they look like eyes though in the door, in like the
Hmm.
shadow of the door.
Yeah, that's not in the original cut.
Yeah, and it's like it's kind of creepy, but
That would be creepy.
it was sort of, it's so early on that it kind of feels like a little bit of a jumping the gun kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's like, oh, what was that? That was a little bit too much, you know? So I almost kind of feel like the regular cut works better for the most part. So maybe I'd like to see that cut again. Um, but because it's been a while since I've seen the regular cut. Um, but yeah, I was sort of like, oh, that's like, yeah, not terribly subtle, but I don't know. Maybe someone wouldn't have noticed it. I'm not sure. Um, I'm glad they didn't do the documentary, like, let's go back and look at that again kind of thing with that,
Hmm. Yeah.
because I did feel like it was like, it was nice to just like see it on my own, you know. I thought that was good. Uh, yeah. What are some other good like scares, or like what else is kind of being set up? Um, well, they have actors for the final kind of part in their
Yeah.
haunted house attraction. Excuse me. And one of them, his name is Joey, I believe, who
I
plays
don't
like one of
remember.
the. He's like dressed. He's going to be dressed as one of the clowns in the basement,
Yeah, I don't
and
remember his name.
I'm pretty sure it was Joey. Um,
Joey Wheeler.
and Joey Wheeler. Hey, they're like in upstate New York, I think. So
Yeah, see, there you go.
Joey Wheeler. It's funny, they say like, oh, we found this guy at like
At
a
a
gas
gas
station.
station. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that's a little sketch, but whatever. Gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Um, and then there's the actress who is going to be like chained up in the basement in the final kind of room, uh, and I forgot her name.
Christy?
She's not. That's probably it.
So
I'm
yeah.
I'm, I'm gonna just believe you on that. Uh,
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
well, okay, wait. Melissa? Was it
Oh,
Melissa?
okay, it was Melissa. I'm
But
thinking.
who
I
the
must be
fuck? I'm
thinking
looking
of.
at the cast list, but who's Diane? Was
Oh,
that her?
she was the woman doing the interviewing with
Oh, you're right. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Diane's yeah, that's right. But yeah, I guess the actress is Melissa, but I don't know. I'm just gonna say Melissa. Why not? Um,
Not
so
Christy.
I guess not. Uh, yeah, the only characters I remember were like Paul, Alex, and Joey, and Sarah, because they say Sarah a lot in it, and like every like horror movie character, like like female characters like named
Name's
Sarah.
Sarah, pretty much.
I don't know why. I wonder if it's like some kind of, I don't know, any kind of reason. But she, yeah, she's not like in it too much. The actors, like the two characters who are like the actors in their thing, are not in it terribly much. Um, so maybe we'll get to them in a bit, but they're occasionally there and they're like explaining things about what they're gonna do in the house. Uh, oh yeah, one thing is like Paul keeps asking for the actress to be like topless in the final part.
Oh yeah.
He's like really creepy. Like he's kind of a creep. I don't know. There's a part where Paul says like is like talking to the camera. It's like, oh yeah, I thought I'd be getting so much, so much pussy, and then he says like, yeah, like Sarah's here, but Alex doesn't like to share. I'm like, that's a little gross. Like, isn't that like your friend? Like, what the fuck? It's a
Guess
little
that's
weird.
guess that's just the type of relationship they have.
I guess so.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. it was kind of like, this guy's a little sketch too.
I mean, that Paul is pretty sketchy,
Yeah, he's
just
sketchy.
like Dustin. That's why he's Dustin.
I wouldn't say Dustin's that sketchy.
No, Dustin's a different type of sketchy. You're watching this, Dustin. I love you, man. No hard feelings.
Yeah, no hard feelings. I'm trying to figure out like what else is there to talk about with setup.
I liked the scene with the strobe lights. I thought was another pretty.
Oh yeah, scene. That was another good scene.
That happens to Paul again. Poor Paul. I do feel sorry for him. He seems to get scared the most.
Yeah, you do feel sorry for him because he's like the first one who really understands that shit is going down, and he seems to be terrorized the most in the beginning. Which is maybe, I mean, I forget which, was it Tony who kind of like set aside Mac and explained to him like what was going on, but like the camera cut away.
I think it was Mac explained to Tony. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'd like to watch the movie again with the knowledge that like, oh, this character kind of knows more than this other character and whatnot. Now that I have that kind of context, like the movie, I want to watch it again. So I'm trying to, but yeah, the setup with the strobe lights was really good. Because I mean, yeah, if anyone's ever been in like a haunted house attraction, there's going to be some strobe lights and stuff. And yeah, they're like setting it up, but they see like another figure. They have like certain mannequins and like props there, and then like one keeps showing up like after every like other strobe light. And he's like, how many mannequins? How many creeps or freaks or whatever he says?
What we got in
how
here?
Many do we have? Yeah. And he's like, oh shit, let me out.
And he's like, 3? Well, there's 4. Yeah. Get out of here. Let me out.
Yeah, I man, there's so many opportunities where they should definitely leave. But I guess something is explained that keeps them there. Who knows? Yeah, maybe it's explained in part 2 better. But yeah, that strobe light scene was good. I didn't really like that they did the documentary like, oh, did you see it? Did you see that?
Yeah, not necessarily.
Again, it's like I feel like it I don't know. I'm sure like that's not the intent, but like it does kind of feel like a bit of a like, do you think like the audience like is stupid or like,
yes,
because it was really obvious. It wasn't like a terribly subtle like thing that happened. I could understand it for maybe some other things, maybe, but that one was like, okay, yeah, we get it. I don't know. So sometimes I felt like the documentary stuff kind of interjected too weirdly. And there's another part later on that I kind of like, I don't know how this fits into the documentary format of the film, but we'll get to that. Trying to think of some other things. There are some parts where they say like, maybe this isn't in the regular cut, but there's a part like early on when they get to the hotel and they're like looking around at all this stuff and they find like a plate on the floor with this like woman on it. I think it's a plate. Like it has a picture of a woman on it and they say like, oh, this looks like Sarah. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. No, I don't.
Okay.
Think that was
maybe like all these things like that explain this stuff are just in the director's cut. I don't know. I'd like to see like a, you know, kind of maybe there's a YouTube video comparing the two or something. That'd be interesting. But it's like, yeah, some of the things that they set up are like, yeah, okay, maybe Sarah maybe has some connection to the Abaddon Hotel. Because again, she's like the only survivor and stuff. But maybe it's because I knew what was going to happen because I've seen the movie before. But the thing with the plate and them going like, oh, like it looks like Sarah, I feel like even if you have a cursory knowledge of horror films, you'd be like, oh, she's gonna be like a ghost or something by the end of this thing, right?
Yeah.
Or has some connection. So it's another thing that like it feels a little bit too obvious. So again, it's like maybe it's not a good idea for these scenes to be in the movie, but I'd say make your own judgment. But I don't know, like the director's cut, I'd never seen it before, and it's like maybe only on the DVD. I'm not sure, and it kind of sucks because the DVD doesn't have the regular cut, which I think is weird.
It is weird.
Like I
Why
would
not just
like
have both?
both cuts. Yeah, I don't
Why
know.
not just have both?
Because sometimes director's cuts can be really good, but sometimes like the first time you see like a movie, that's the version you like the most. So it could just be that kind of bias for me, but I don't know. But yeah, they set up like that Sarah might have some connection to the house, at least in the version I saw. Trying to think what else they really set up. I mean, there's all the stuff with the interview portions of the documentary. There's like a guy who like went in to the house after the whole incident, and like he was like, I've searched houses and I've been to some creepy places, but I couldn't even go down into the basement. And he said like, oh, I just like put my camera around the corner and snapped some photos and I left. And they show like the photos of the staircase, and like there's like handprints on it and stuff like that from people like basically like trampling each other to get out of the basement. And they show that at the beginning.
Yep.
Trying to think what else. I don't know. Anything else that like was interesting about before we get to like the climax of the movie?
I think we talked about like most of like the really good scary stuff. It kind of sets up and then it pays off with it up to the end of the movie where we actually get to see what happened opening night and in the basement and all that.
Yeah,
I guess we should talk the scene with Paul and the woman in the room. It's kind of implied that he kind of goes missing for a little bit, like no one can find him, and then he ends up back up in the basement. Sorry, and he seems off. Like he won't talk really. He's just almost in like this trance state where he's just not responding to anything. And I think when opening night comes, he's just kind of in bed and he's just sleeping, not saying anything. So you figure it's like, okay, he's probably possessed at this point. So that happens with Paul.
Yeah, that part is like creepy too, because you just wonder like, oh, what happened to him?
Yeah, obviously he's the guy who doesn't stop talking, and then he doesn't talk.
Yeah,
so something's up.
Yeah, it's I liked that a lot. And then there's a pretty good payoff of Paul in the very end. But yeah, I think that's most of the stuff that happens that's like really big and interesting before the climax, where we finally get to see what happens. Well, I guess like setting things up, they put the actress in the basement, and she is like chained up because the whole setup of that room is that like she is supposed to be like a sacrifice or something. And even when they get to the hotel, there's like a pentagram on the wall and like on the floor, and there's like a Bible in the basement. So it's like already like, that's like that probably maybe.
Yeah, I think, and it's Alex that says something like, "Oh, see, like half our work's done. We don't even have to like set up anything in here, pretty much."
Oh, that's true. That's right. Yeah, he does.
I'm pretty sure it's Alex that says that, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Some of the guys are kind of like, "Okay, this is weird. This is freaky." Like, no. Like half our work's done in here now.
Yeah, because he's like the character who, again, like even in just the regular cut, he's like the character who just like wants to keep going and stick with it, like no
I don't
matter
know.
what.
I don't know, Walt. You've been acting kind of sus lately.
Yeah, Alex is very sussy baka.
Someone should have
He's
called him a
like,
sussy baka.
oh, well, that just reminded me because it would be really funny if he said that.
You
It's
sussy.
like 2009 in the movie.
You're sussy baka. It's like, what does that
But
mean?
I did want to mention, like, it is an interesting like thing about the movie that it does take place in 2009. I think it looks fairly authentic. I mean, like
Yeah.
we shot like video with like camcorders and
Yeah,
stuff.
it still has that kind of grainy look, and
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
like the cameras we were using weren't like great. They're
no,
obviously using
pretty
better
grainy.
cameras.
Yeah, but it
Still, it
still,
looks
yeah, I think it pulls off the time it's in just fine.
because the movie
The
came
year.
out in 2015. So again, like you have,
Yeah,
if
it
you're going to
doesn't.
set a found footage movie in 2009, it should look authentic, because there's definitely found footage movies out there that do not look authentic in even by modern standards that like take place in the present day, where you're like, no one would have a camera that looks that good
Yeah,
for that
yeah.
amount of money,
Yep.
So I liked that it feels pretty authentic. I wanted to mention that. But yeah, so they're setting up the final night, or the first night, sorry. But they're setting everything up. So like they chain the actress down the basement, and Joey is down there in the basement dressed as a clown. One, to like scare people, and two, to essentially make sure that no one tries to mess with the actress while she's chained up. He's like essentially like a security, like at that point. But he is like the first one who just books it out of there as soon as shit starts going down, and you're like, fucking, of course, gas station guy, like, of course.
I mean, can you blame him?
But I can't blame him. But they also established like that he has the keys to her chains.
Yeah, and he
which
just
is like,
books it.
at
So
least
she's just
at
like,
least drop the keys for someone, or something like that, man.
yeah, he
Give
just
the
like,
keys to
nope,
her.
I'm out. Peace.
Yeah.
Good luck. And she's just like, okay, well, crap. Ah!
Yeah. But yeah, they're building this up the entire movie. That like this is like the scariest thing ever, and I think it would have been like, it's kind of like, I feel stuff that is typical for a found footage movie, like the stuff that happens in the end is stuff that I feel like we've seen in other movies.
Yeah, I
right?
honestly think it would have been better just to like not show what happens, to leave it
Yeah,
up to your
I
imagination.
kind of agree.
That'd be scarier. They should have just
Yeah.
not shown.
But I do think, like, for the context of everything, like, yes, this would be pretty scary if it happened in real life, like, for sure. But yeah, I do kind of agree. I mean, there's certain things that like feel important to show, like essentially like these like cult members or demons or whatever they are just show up like out of the blue. There's no doors or anything in the basement.
No, they're
right?
just there all of a sudden.
Yeah, they just show up. They appear out of nowhere. A whole. Well, I don't know if this happens again. I'd like to watch the original cut again, but there like a hole opens up in the middle of the floor of the basement, right? And the actress
Yeah,
gets dragged in.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that happens in the.
I think so. I felt like I remembered that part. But yeah, everything starts to just go crazy because these cult members show up. I think they say that like none of the like clients or whatever, people who showed up just to see the attraction, got hurt, right?
Yeah, I think it's just
the employees.
Yeah.
And the actress. I mean, she's an employee, but
Yes.
So yeah, she gets dragged into some kind of hole in the ground, some pits of hell, presumably, and then Tony and Mac, what happened to them? I'm trying to remember.
I think Tony runs down to the basement, and then we see him just kind of down there, and the door closes. So we don't really get to see ultimately kind of what happens if he gets dragged down too, or if they just kill him down there.
Mhm.
I just remember like he runs down the basement, and then the door closes.
Okay. And then the other one, the other guy.
Don't even remember.
I'm trying to remember. I know Joey. They say early on that he ran out, and then whatever he saw was so horrifying that he killed himself 10 days after like they questioned him. He he hanged himself, which is like a kind of a recurring thing because the owner of the hotel, I think, killed his family, then hung himself. Uh, and I'm trying to think. Alex hangs himself, right? They like go up
Yeah,
into the attic. Oh yeah, that's right. They like
yeah, that's
I
how
can't
he
I can't
does.
I can't
Forgetting about that
tell
part.
I can't tell the two guys apart, Tony and Mac. I know their faces, but like I don't know their names. Like I can't apply them to either one. But yeah, one of them like goes with I think with Sarah to up to the attic, and uh yeah, Tony or Alex hanging himself in the attic, and then the cult members show up. I don't know if they're cult members or demons or whatever. What did you assume? I assumed cult members, but
Yeah, I assumed that too.
yeah, even though they do kind of supernaturally show up. So like maybe they're cult members with superpowers, or
I,
are
I just
they
figured they were like cult members, and they made some pacts with the demons or
right?
whatever is
Exactly.
there, and that like kind of so they're not living anymore. They have like those supernatural powers now for making the deals and like undead and stuff like that. Something along those lines.
Yeah, I assume that. And then the cult members like get the guy Mac or Tony, and they don't show what happens to Sarah at this point because throughout the whole movie they're interviewing Sarah after everything because again she's the only survivor of the group, uh, and during the middle of the interview Sarah is like, I'm sorry, like can we take a break uh, and finish this another time? And they're like, oh sure, of course. And they like talking to her before she leaves, and Sarah's like, oh, you should really go in there, you should really go to the hotel and just see what's there. It's like, wow, that's a great idea. Don't maybe no.
Yep, nothing bad
But
will happen.
they kind of established that like this woman interviewing Sarah is a little more gung ho about like this interview and the documentary, and because they're like waiting for Sarah, but she's the interviewer lady. She's like the only one, Diane. She's the only one who's like patient enough to even wait for Sarah. Uh, so they kind of after the whole climax of the Hell House, uh, they cut to like um, the interview. Diane and uh, her cameraman go into the house, break in, and just to check it out. And Sarah had mentioned like, "Oh yeah, I'm staying at the hotel here. I'm in room 6C or something like that."
Two,
And
three. It was like 2 or 3C. 2C, I think.
I think 2C. You're right. Um, and uh, when they're leaving to go to the hotel, uh, the Abaddon Hotel, they like stop by the clerk at the hotel they're staying at, and they're like, "Oh yeah, can you like just leave a message for Sarah in 2C?" And it's like, what our like rooms don't have
No,
like letters.
and there's no
Yes.
one here by that name.
Yeah, and they're like,
Like,
hmm.
ooh,
Yeah,
spooky.
still do what Sarah told you to do and go to the Abaddon Hotel and investigate it. Yeah, and they're investigating it, and uh, they find the room 2C at the hotel. And they're like, oh shit. Like, that's what Sarah told us to find.
Let's go in there, yo.
Yeah, and they go in and they find Sarah just staring out the window. They're like, Sarah, what's up? And the door slams shut behind them, and then her and a bunch of cult members like do some shit to them. I don't know what did they do again? They just like disappear, right?
Yeah, I'm just assuming that they die.
Yeah,
They kill them.
and then I don't know. They show what happened that Sarah. They cut to footage that.
Yeah, I think this is because there's three guys. There's Diane, and then the camera guy, and then like some other guy, like the editor or something, and he stays behind to watch more footage, and that's like where he sees the extra footage where Sarah was actually killed by Paul.
Yeah,
and then Paul like slits his throat, and he tries, I think, calling them like, I don't know who you're talking to, but that shouldn't be Sarah because she's dead according to this footage. But
yeah,
because he, like the guy who, like that third person who stayed behind, I think Michael or Mitch is his name. He is like kind of a big part of the second one. So that's why I didn't even really remember that character. So yeah, that's what happens there.
Yeah. So does he call them?
He tries to call them, yeah, because when they're wandering, maybe it's not shown in the director's cut, but in the regular version, she gets a phone call and she's like, "Oh, I'll call him when we're out of here."
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, I think it implies like he watched it and he's like he tries to call them to warn them, but she just like, "Oh, well, I'll talk to him when we're out of here." Obviously, not knowing that they were never going to make it out of there.
Which this is, I guess this is just a problem that I have with it being a standalone movie. But maybe they explain it in the sequel. But how does anyone get the footage that Diane and that guy shot in the hotel when they go there?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe did someone else go? And I guess you could imply that like someone later on, you know, they're like, oh, they probably disappeared at the hotel.
Well, I would think that the guy who stayed behind, like he probably never heard from them, so he called the police and they probably investigated and maybe they just found the camera.
Okay.
So that's my best guess, is that police got it.
I guess that's true. You'd think like the documentary would probably say something though about how they got it. But
yeah, it's not too big a deal, I think.
No. Yeah, but that's the movie. That's Hell House LLC. I would say it's like a very good like found footage movie that I don't know, it doesn't do anything terribly new with the scares and the kind of horror aspects by the end of it, but there are some really, really good scenes, and I do like the kind of premise and setup of everything overall. Yeah, I don't know. What do you? Should we get into our ratings and
sure, we can do that.
Yeah. Why don't you go first? Because I'm still kind of on the fence on my rating.
Yeah, this one's a little bit harder to rate just because kind of what we said earlier. It doesn't do anything that innovative. It doesn't do anything to change the genre, and there are definitely some flaws with it. But I think it gets you enough to kind of invested enough in the characters, and I like the setting. Like the hotel, I think is a great setting for like any horror thing to kind of go down. Just like the way it's all maze like, it's hard to get through, the basement and everything. Like there's a lot of like really creepy rooms and settings, and I like a lot of the stuff they do, like with the mannequins and with the lights, and I like how they hint about something terrible going down first and then kind of build that up throughout the movie. So I think it's pretty solid. This was my second time seeing it. I still enjoyed it. I think I'm kind of in the same opinion as you, although you watched the director's cut. I did not watch the director's cut. So I just watched the version that we watched before. And I remembered most of the stuff from this movie. So I think that's a good. I would say that's a positive thing since it's been quite a few years since I've seen it, and I remembered a lot of it. And I pretty much enjoy this movie. I enjoyed it a second time. Um, I would probably watch it again. So I think I'd give it like a solid 3. I
Okay.
think a
Yeah,
solid 3 is fine.
because I'm like on the fence between 3 and 3.5. And I guess like the first time I saw it, I think I probably gave it like solid 3.5, you know, because like it was really surprising. Again, like found footage is usually a genre where like if you just pick a random movie, you're gonna get like something really bad.
Yeah.
And we've even done that with stuff like I don't like the break-in. It was like awful. But like Hell House was like, oh wow, that was good. That was a surprise. Uh, so I think like 3.5 the first time I saw it. Then yeah, a couple years ago, I gave it a 3 because I was like, oh, it's not as good as I remember, but it's still good. And then
Yeah, I think it's a very solid found footage movie.
yeah, and then over like the past somewhere, I don't know, I think like the beginning of this month or like maybe last month, I was kind of like because I think about all the Halloween movies to watch and like I was like thinking about Hell House again. And I was like, oh, like I was probably too harsh on it. It's probably closer to a 3.5, so I changed my rating to a 3.5. But then, yeah, watching again, and maybe just because it's the director's cut, I was like, 3. I think I'm gonna go with 3 as well. I'll say like comparing it to like Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, I gave that a 3.5. I think you gave it a 3. I will say I do think I like the premise and kind of authenticity and sort of the more subtle nature of Hell House LLC. And then like Gonji and Haunted Asylum is more like the jump scare movie. But it's real. I think both are effective. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. Like maybe they shouldn't have shown what actually happened at the end of Hell House, but that is also sort of like the whole hook of the movie. So like they kind of have to show
Yeah,
it.
I get that. I think they
Um,
could have like kind of implied more. And I was actually looking at some of the footage while we were talking. And I
uh-huh.
don't in the original, I don't think we actually see the portal open up and have Melissa get dragged down.
Oh,
We don't see
really?
that. So yeah,
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's better than showing that. So we don't
Yeah,
really we just kind
I
of see
like
like
that more.
the masked cult followers kind of like surrounding her and then screaming. So we still don't really get to see what kind of happens to her in the original. So I
I
think
think that's effective.
yeah, I think that's more effective. I just couldn't remember. It's like, did we see that? I had to look. So no, that's not in the original.
Yeah, because for some reason I thought like I I was like, oh yeah, I remember that scene, but
I don't
yeah,
know.
I
I
guess it's
thought
not
it's like
there.
that sounds like it happened, but no,
It
no, it
sounds like
didn't.
it happened, yeah.
It didn't. It did
Uh,
not happen. Not that I could find. Re looking at the footage here really quick, but
yeah, I mean, obviously, like Blair Witch Project is still my gold standard for found footage and like realistically portraying it, and that movie is like really doesn't show a single thing, and that's like why it's so great. Uh, so yeah, but it's like yeah, to I don't know, I guess to appeal to like the more modern standard, you got to show something. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I because I was reading letterbox reviews too, and like some people like really hated this movie, uh, and I definitely don't think it's bad. But I guess I can kind of understand the like the perspective of like it starts off very subtle and it builds, and then the climax gets very more typical found footage movie, right? Like, would you agree with that?
yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's like necessarily a bad thing. As
No,
long as
no,
it
I don't
does it
think it's
as
bad.
long as it does it well, and I think this does it fairly well.
Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
you know, I don't I'm not I don't hate the ending or anything, or I don't feel like too disappointed by it. It's like I think like the payoff is like decent enough.
Yeah, and I will say like at least like you could remember characters' names and like their personalities with this movie. I mean, I guess I couldn't between Tony and Mac, but with the
Yeah,
other
they
characters
don't.
I could.
Yeah, but like Paul and stuff like that.
Yeah, Paul and
Sarah.
Alex and Sarah
Yeah,
and Joey,
I can at least
like
remember names.
yeah, I think
There's
that's a
sometimes where it's like I watched this earlier today and I can't remember anyone's name. So
yeah,
I can only remember characters' names. And yeah, I remembered a lot about the movie watching it the first time because I think a lot of scenes are pretty memorable. And this is something I could see watching again. When, I don't know, but I
yeah.
could see myself watching it again.
It's funny. I didn't remember that it was done in a documentary style. I thought it was just straight up like regular found footage movie. So that like kind of caught me off guard watching it this time around. Even though I only saw it a couple years ago. I don't know why I didn't remember. But
Shame on you. Shame.
I'd like to see it again. It's like weird. It's a very high 3-star movie, I guess, for me. If that is like, anything. Because yeah, I've seen it 3 times now and I still want to watch it again. uh, even after all the criticisms I have with it.
Yeah, I
So
would
yeah,
watch the non-director's cut and see kind of what you think about that.
yeah, I hope they put like a Blu-ray out with both of them on or something. Maybe once the new one comes out, they could put out a box set. I actually would watch them all, even if the sequels aren't good. I don't know. Uh, but I enjoyed the movie a lot. So that's it for this week. Trying to remember what our next movie is. I believe it's VHS 99, not 94. 94 is the one that came out last year.
The new one.
We're going to talk about the one that's it's not out on Shutter just yet, but it will be by the time we do our meeting and our discussion. So that's on Shutter. It's premiering on Shutter. So yeah, we'll be talking about VHS 99. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the previous films. Just a
Hopefully
bit.
Dustin will be able to join us.
Yeah, hopefully. I think it's going to be our first anthology film that we talk about, right? I don't think we've done one before.
I don't
So
believe
like, I
so.
mean, yeah, if like you don't know, an anthology film is like comprised of different short films kind of put together. So we'll basically be talking about each one individually, and then also talk about how it all kind of coalesces with each other and everything. So I think it'll be a really fun discussion. And I have not seen the movie. I've heard a little bit about it, but I'm still pretty much in the dark. So it'll be all of our first time seeing it. Hopefully Dustin can join. And yeah, watch it on Shutter and listen to us talk about it. That's it for this time. We'll see you then. Bye. Bye bye.